Hi, I'm Lando Norris. Come with me and I'll show you my hot lap. To be European champion, I need to be stronger.
Max Verstappen takes the win.
It's a great feeling and we worked really hard for that. I can't be happier right now.
Me and Max, we've grown up in similar generations, similar times. We're very good friends.
Do you think at any point that you could beat Max?
I have no idea what it's like to win a Formula One race.
Max Verstappen on the inside takes the lead.
Because I've never done it.
It's all slipping away for the British driver.
I just fuck it up too much. I'm sorry. I got a good amount of podiums, but I think every single second place I've had, I've been to Max.
Critical difference between Max and Lando. Max has a complete fuck you mentality.
Don't give me that bullshit now. You guys give me the fucking strategy, okay?
And that's not Lando. This season, if he wants to take on Max Verstappen, he has to be ruthless.
Two friends turned rivals.
To the cost of everything, even his best friend.
Nice. Oh my God.
Steve. Yeah, hey. Just chilling out.
Here we go.
You ready? 2024. Yeah, I don't think anyone wants another year of Red Bull winning every race. Yeah, I think car's gonna be pretty mega.
This has been a strong off-season. The team's done an unbelievable job developing the car. We're definitely thinking we have everything in our toolbox to fight at the very top.
And we got the best driver lineup. I think we have a chance to win races this year and take it to Red Bull.
We know we've given Lando a car this year capable of winning races. So we've got big expectations.
Yeah. Everyone's beatable. I think Lando's gonna push him real hard. And we'll see if we can get him to crack.
Zach told me he had the best driver lineup. Was he right?
No. I don't know what you're smoking.
When you're in the junior categories, F2, F3, all the way down to karting, you're winning every month.
I think when you get to F1, you have to get used to not having even a chance of winning. I might not even win for ever.
I might never win again.
I might never win again. Something that people don't realize is how brutal Formula One is. There's 20 seats in the world, and it's kind of you against everyone else. If you lose your seat, it could be that your career's over all of a sudden within Formula One.
You are up against quite a big challenge, to be fair. Max at Red Bull.
Yeah, Max at Red Bull. If I don't do this, there's nothing to fall back on. Starting what I'm hoping will be my best season ever in Formula One.
Final lap here at Bahrain. Norris across the line.
P6. A bit tricky today.
Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Here comes Max Verstappen down the main straight. Verstappen takes the lead. Lando Norris in 8th place.
I'm sorry.
Norris in third. There's Perez making the move to the inside and taking P3.
My bad.
I think everyone expected Lando to turn up in 2024 and be competing with Red Bull at the top of the field, and he just hasn't done that.
Pole position, race win, fastest lap, fastest pit stop.
Sounds simply lovely to me.
Lando Norris crosses the line, fifth.
I fucked up. Max there again, bastard. That was fucking Max.
The start of this season has been disappointing for Lando. It's been disappointing for McLaren. Now, there are a lot of people questioning whether Lando is quite as good as he was made out to be when he was younger.
Where did the Lando no-wins thing come from?
Lando no-wins? I didn't even know this was a nickname. It's the worst nickname ever.
The Lando no wins probably came from, I don't know, just people in love with their keyboard, I think.
It's tough. It would definitely be playing on his mind because other drivers will use it against him.
Lando no wins. I think that's a little bit harsh. Yeah.
My weakness is caring too much about what people say or think or feel. And then I kind of get into this spiral, which has been my problem with making progress in my career. I just got to focus on my own driving, and that's all I can control.
Welcome everybody to the Miami International Autodrome. Max Verstappen absolutely loves this place. He's never been beaten around the 19 turns.
Lando, first up, we have to talk about your nose. How are you doing with that?
I'm fine. I had a good weekend, spending with some friends. It's just a little cut from a bit of glass. That's it.
Do you know, as a team principal, seeing your driver partying before race weekends, it's not ideal.
Oh, fuck, it's warm in there.
What's going on there? It's Trump. Trump! Oh my God, I really want to see this.
Checo!
This year, McLaren have got a really great car, and there are no excuses for Lando. Lando needs to be on top of it if he is going to beat Max. A win is long overdue.
All good? How was your night in Amsterdam? Fucking mega. It was. I woke up and someone sent me a photo of you with all that toilet paper around your face. I was like, what is going on? No, it's a proper bandage. Well, really? Sunrise picture.
You've got a party boy reputation. Is that fair?
No.
How's your nose? He's all right. I'm like a bit drunk, so I'm trying to drink, and he's like, no! Oh, and then he lets go, and it's completely cut. Boom. So then he goes like, I must have heard a bit, no? I didn't know. I did not notice. Like a little flash. It's a little DRS flap. Little rear wing. It's okay.
I rate Lando very high, and he's a nice guy. He's very relaxed. Of course, he hasn't won a race yet, but most of the time the people who make it to Formula One are actually not the most talented people out there, but are the ones who combine talent with hard work.
Yes, Max! Show the aggression! Oh, you can't do that.
From when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a Formula One driver and I wanted to win. I think I'm very talented, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not a given. For me, that's what you do off the track as well. You have to try and work harder than the people around you.
There are a lot of differences between me and Max. Like, a lot. He's 100% more aggressive.
Where my heart stops.
Probably naturally more born racer than what I am.
Did you see the car I'm in? I'm in the little green one.
I had no knowledge growing up of what I needed to do and what I needed to be like and that kind of stuff. And he did.
And the door's broken, so if I go around the corner...
No, it opens up. His dad was in it, and for sure that's helped him when he got to F1.
Drive safe.
Always. You know me.
I was, you know, small and people could take advantage of that and, you know, those kind of things. And he probably grew up on the aggressive side of racing, and I was always probably the kind of guy that got bullied.
No! He asked me. Is it your only one? Oh, shit. Need your hair looks good, mate.
Max Verstappen, 53 wins in the last 106 races. It's all going simply lovely for him on the track, but he's got
the fans have always been great here. They've always been really enthusiastic. We've won it twice.
Gonna get another then?
Love to.
So McLaren's got a decent car this year. How do you think Zach's feeling?
I have no idea how Zach is feeling. I think when you're winning, it just annoys people because there can only be one winner at the end of the day. And in Formula One, there's winners and wankers, and you don't want to be in the wanker category.
Like to see you win.
And they need Max to slip on a banana peel for that to happen.
Oh, get that on camera.
Almost biffed it.
It's on Netflix, don't worry. Yeah.
That would have been bad.
Their best chance of challenging Max is with Lando. But does Lando have the mental strength to go up against Max? Only time will tell.
So what he's doing now is visualisation.
Yeah, I'm visualising my lap right now.
Yeah. People think he's just like kicking back and relaxing, but this is pure visualisation.
Engine failure.
There isn't a right way or wrong way to win a race. You can win it smiling, you can win it being unhappy, you can win it... It doesn't matter what mentality you have, you just got to win.
Stop the car, I think.
This is not what we practice.
I have to walk back to the pit lane in 1 second.
I don't care what people say I need to have or what I must have. It's all opinions. And in my opinion, I can win it the way I am.
If Lando wants to beat Max Verstappen, does he have what it takes to be that killer? There are a lot of doubters. The questions will continue to come until he starts to perform at the top of the field.
Max Verstappen starts on pole.
Yeah, ready to check.
Will he go on and win it? Lando Norris fifth.
Ready to check. Yeah, Lando.
Okay, Lando ready.
Verstappen leads in the turn one. Perez locks up, almost takes out Verstappen.
Fucking hell. Oh.
What the fuck was that?
Sergio Perez's heart will be pounding. He's lost a place. So has Sainz, so has Norris.
That's fucking shit.
Max Verstappen has the chance to stretch his legs out front.
You happy for the moment? Yeah. Gap 1.3.
Perez ahead, possibly genuinely struggling. I'll go get it. This is a really strong pace. Box, checo, box. Yeah.
And Norris improves to P5.
Sainz is the car ahead. Pace is good, so let's keep this happening. Lando, you're currently the fastest car. Yeah, good.
Carlos Sainz pits and Piastri pits too.
Okay, Lando, cars have started to pit. Would you prefer to stay out? I think stay out. Gap 2 for Verstappen, 9.
Okay, just watch your brake application, Max.
Yeah. I hit that cone.
Understood. Box and pick confirm, Max.
Verstappen has pitted. Yeah,
Lando Norris takes over the lead of the race. Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent really aggressively racing.
You okay?
Okay.
Safety car deployed, Max.
Did Lando pit?
No.
Fuck.
Lando, opportunity, box this one. Yeah,
This is a big moment for Lando. The rest of the field is behind the safety car. He can pit and still emerge as the race leader.
Lando, you're going to come out ahead of Verstappen.
Lucky bastards.
Yeah.
They got very lucky with a safety car.
Fuck, this is so unlucky. Yeah, Lando's going to lead the race.
Lando on a fresh hard tyre.
What the fuck?
Lando Norris has never won a Formula One Grand Prix. Is this the day to change all of that?
If I come out of the box, come out of the pits, I'm going to be leading the race. I got lucky. So trying to tell myself it's just another race. But seeing Max in my mirrors, in my head, I think don't fuck it up.
Let's go.
Norris and Verstappen fighting immediately on the restart.
Be careful. Verstappen 0.5.
Can Lando Norris keep Max Verstappen behind?
More, please, Max.
Yeah.
8 laps to go.
Okay. When you're leading and you're in that position, then your mind starts to play games.
Lando, no wins, no wins.
5 laps remaining.
Yep. 0.9.
It's Lando versus Max.
3 more laps.
Let's just see how this unfolds. Max is all-out attack.
Lando last lap. You've done it, mate. You've done it.
Norris trumps Verstappen and wins for the first time in his career.
Oh, about fucking time. Oh, Lando, no win, sir. No.
Congrats to Lando for his first win.
Well done to Lando, first win. Very, very well done.
Can't win them all.
Just unlucky with the safety car, but
Fortuitous, shall we say.
Not a bad day in the office, my friend.
But I think McLaren have got to reappraise the position they're in.
That was good. We needed that. That was good. Oh, man.
That's a seriously competitive car, and a driver in Lando Norris who is now a Grand Prix winner.
Broken rib time!
which way we got to go?
So this is Park Ferme.
Yeah.
We have to go around the other way and walk around the stadium.
Okay, and it's quite a schlap, is it? Or
Yeah, but they've opened it into 2 lanes. So there's a guest lane and a team personnel
right,
lane.
okay. Well, we should go. We should go round.
You want me to come with?
Yeah. It's a good reminder that it hurts to lose. So we'll let Lando or McLaren have that one. But I don't want to see Zach with a big smile on his face.
Finally paid off. It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
You were scared? I wasn't. I was okay.
Lando, great win for him. A big win for Max to lose.
All right, bye-bye. I love you.
Max is a winner. He just comes to win. Everything else is a failure. I would, I would have a meltdown. I would be in a bad place right now.
It's lonely out there, isn't it, at the front? You think of everything like life is life. Do you?
But I don't think he reacts like most drivers do. He will come back fighting.
Lando down here, down the front.
Lando, he's starting to play in the big league now. And with that comes a different pressure, a different scrutiny. Some people rise to it.
Is that pure vodka?
Some people don't.
Yeah, Lewis sent me a nice note. Ooh. Lewis, Fernando,
Okay, yeah.
Vettel.
Yeah.
Toto wrote me. Red Bull did it. Ever since we've seen Lando win, you can just tell his confidence. He walks a little bit taller. He's very hungry to catch Max. I'm sure they'll tangle at some point in the not-too-distant future.
You're friends with Max. Will that dynamic change if you keep depriving him of wins?
I'm sure it will. I've hated seeing Max win so many races. I got lucky. But winning in Miami kind of brought back that feeling of this is why I love doing what I do. And for the first time in my career,
Max has seen us as a little bit of a threat. An amazing few days. I think it's made me even more greedy to want to do it again. Winning is a drug. It really is. Success is a drug. I've got confidence now. I know exactly what I got to do. That feeling of success and standing on top of the podium and having all the team there and just kind of feeling free, that's definitely a feeling I don't think you get in many other ways of life. I need to step up even more if I want to have that feeling again. It's definitely a bit surreal still. I've achieved something I've always wanted to achieve since I was 6, 7 years old. But then for the same time, I'm like, we've done one. Can we do two?
Verstappen still out in front, clear of Lando Norris.
You're currently quicker than Verstappen ahead and Leclerc behind. Oh, good. I'm for shipping.
Norris closing up to the back of Verstappen within a second. He's absolutely wringing the neck of that car.
Final lap gap is 1.1.
Leave me to it. I'm pushing as much as I can.
Max Verstappen wins in Imola.
Oh, it's frustrating not to win. Feels a bit more painful now.
Well, mate, that was a very, very, very strong drive.
Yeah, that's last left. Had to go flat out.
Immediately trying to deal with Max Verstappen. He tried to chop across.
Get yourself to the glass. Lando, what do you think? I think we need to go good, Max.
Max Verstappen wins the Spanish Grand Prix.
That was simply lovely.
P2, as you know. I should have won. I fucked up the start.
Lando Norris started on pole. It's second for him and second in the championship.
How much do you want that second win?
I just want to win every race.
I think he wants to play with the big boys.
Lando's keen to prove himself that I can take on Max. And it started to get a bit sporty.
This is how the starting grid looks. And already at the final corner, Lando Norris right on the rear end of Max Verstappen. I thought he was looking for an overtake there.
Lando really wants to hustle Max to the line.
No changes in the launch procedure, Max.
Yeah. Lando, fast car approaching the grid. Loud and clear.
He wants to win badly. I want to win badly. I don't think it matters who you are or what you've done. I'm going to push it to the limit.
There's a good start from Max Verstappen.
outside.
No, he reacted to my move. A double move there from Max. You're not allowed to do that.
Outside the track. He'll have to give the position back to Verstappen. Is he going to let Verstappen back through?
He forced me to go wide and look off.
Not entirely sure how he thinks she forced it off, Max.
It's the right thing to do to give the position back. Let's get it again.
He can't keep moving after a move. It's just dangerous. Oh, we're going to have a big shot. A real cat and mouse going on now. Max sees it coming this time. Can't keep doing this. He keeps moving on a look up.
Max is showing his qualities as a world champion. To pass Max, you're going to have to do it the hard way.
Jesus. Yeah, I used to give the position back. I was ahead at the apex, and he went off track.
That's not how you overtake.
Oh, they made contact!
Oh my God.
Two friends, now rivals, turned into each other at turn number 3.
Lando, keep going for now, please.
Man, are you blind? The car's fucked. Fuck.
Verstappen could only manage 5th in the end.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, he didn't behave correctly there, Max.
You just done all the fucking lights. You did the fucking lights. These lot actually need to do something, not just fucking sit on a fence. They need to go and do actually something.
He ruined his own race just as much as he ruined mine. It was all his fault.
I think Max is laying a very firm marker that don't think I'm going to be intimidated or bullied. And it's inevitable that competitive nature is going to outweigh a friendship.
Yeah, tough one to take. If he says he did nothing wrong, then I lose a lot of respect for that.
No, I don't think I was particularly aggressive at anything that I did. If anyone was aggressive, I think it was the other way around in terms of trying to pass.
Did he apologise?
No.
You tried this avenue again?
Yes, because I did nothing wrong.
I think ideally, but I'm not here to be loved or whatever. I'm here to do my job. I wanted to be a Formula 1 driver and I wanted to win, and that's what I'm here for.
Lando Norris was forced out of the Austrian Grand Prix following a crash with world champion Max Verstappen. Norris and Verstappen both blamed each other.
Norris felt he had to show that he would not be intimidated. He said if Verstappen were to insist he'd done nothing wrong, then he would lose a bit of respect.
How do you deal with all the comments done after Austria regarding your driving?
Not giving a shit, just getting on with your life.
But do you think that sometimes people are too hard with you, that you don't deserve this kind of criticism?
Again, I don't care, man. I just go home, I live my life, Had a few lovely gin tonics on Tuesday on the boat, and now I'm here again.
So I woke up Monday, first thing, 8 a.m. I was expecting a text from him. Just to have a little chit chat.
I probably expected an apology from him.
And I probably wasn't even too upset about the crash itself. But yeah, you just have that respect that you want to keep.
To be fair to Verstappen, it's the first time for a while where he's having to adjust to having a competitor regularly in his mirrors.
It's you against the world in that situation, and you got your team as backup. But everything that you do know, and everything from a friendship point of view, that goes out the window.
Like just 6 months ago, he was the most competitive driver-car combination ever in the history of Formula One. And just a few months later, we're trying to ruin that reputation that he has.
Austria was a big moment in their friendship. But if he's going to start making the inroads into Max's championship lead, he has to start scoring big every weekend and making Max and Red Bull sweat.
We are here at Zandvoort by the Sea for the Dutch Grand Prix, where the home hero Max Verstappen, well, was riding the crest of a wave at the start of the season, but the chasing pack have been gathering and waiting to try and challenge that lead.
Max, this is your race day at home. How are you feeling here in front of this incredible stadium section?
Yeah, it's fantastic, of course. You see this. It's, yeah, incredible. It brings a big smile on my face.
There's only one reason why the Dutch Grand Prix is on the Formula One calendar, and it's because the greatest driver of this generation is Dutch.
Most important question, is Max Verstappen going to win the 2024 Dutch Grand Prix?
Het gaat lastig worden, maar we gaan ons best doen.
Good luck, man. Thanks, man.
Since the Dutch Grand Prix came back on the calendar, only one driver's won it. This is Max's house. So, for McLaren, for Lando Norris, this is going to be a pivotal race.
Question to Lando, how confident are you of really having a shot at the Drivers' Championship this year?
You know, we probably should have won 2-3 more races as a team, but we didn't. And we're not saying anything more than that. You know, we should have won and we didn't, and it's because we've not done a good enough job. I didn't do a good enough job. So it's not a question that I need to get asked every single weekend.
Thanks both. Any more? No more? We will leave it there. Very well done. Thank you.
We shouldn't be too worried about Verstappen. I think it's Verstappen worried about how can he finish ahead of 2 McLarens. But I think he's more worried about us and how he can limit the championship point damage than we need to be worried about Verstappen.
You never know when opportunities will present themselves in Formula One. Look back 18 months, McLaren was slowest, last. And now, everyone in the sport recognises they've got the best car and the best opportunity at taking this fight to Red Bull for both the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship.
I don't want to let McLaren beat us in either championship. Nothing motivates more than that. Believe me. So
that would be a big disappointment if that's happening.
There is no guarantee that in 2025 they have that same opportunity. You have to make it count now.
Max doesn't start on pole for the first time at Zandvoort. It's Lando Norris who took pole yesterday.
This tense, you know.
Norris is shit again. You just know people are watching you, and you just know that you have to perform. You just have all the eyes on you from the outside that are ready to judge you and tear you down if you make a mistake. There is pressure and nerves. I don't want to make any mistakes. Have fun, dude.
Grand Prix is underway. Oh, it's a poor start for Lando Norris. Max Verstappen takes the lead.
It's the worst case scenario for Lando Norris.
It's good, Max. Keep it up. The gap 1.3.
Yeah.
What's the plan from here?
Well, Lando, we think just plan A. We think plan A.
Got it.
Stay on it, Lando. Come on.
Lando 1.1.
Car doesn't turn at all in 10.
Understood.
Lando, how's the pace?
You know, I just think too strong.
Norris putting pressure on Verstappen.
This time 0.7.
Norris is very close. As close as it's been all Grand Prix since he lost the lead.
Okay, mate, this is really good. Cool.
It is very close. Lando Norris trying to take the lead in the Dutch Grand Prix.
Verstappen will try and fight it.
Norris stuns the home crowd.
Happy?
Yeah, all good.
Let's go.
And his gap over Max Verstappen, 7.5 seconds.
5 laps to go. The gap to Verstappen, 16.
I'll figure it out.
19 seconds in the lead, ahead of the World Championship leader.
It's the last lap.
This is the last lap, yeah.
Max's home race, never been beaten here before.
The Dutch crowd are all standing to applaud Lando Norris and his efforts here today.
For the second time in Formula One, Lando Norris wins with a crushing performance.
Well done.
Let's go! Woo!
That was a strong drive. Well done.
Thank you so much. Incredible job. Simply lovely, huh?
Lewis leaving from the team created a gigantic hole.
I need to look for the next superstar.
I felt like this is now my opportunity to step up, to be a leader.
Can George Russell go around the outside? Big crash!
George, you okay? Dynasties always come to an end.
Lando Norris wins. What a day for McLaren.
If we keep going like this, we're fine.
It's great to be the hunter instead of the hunted.
The two McLarens going wheel to wheel. And Piastri takes the lead.
If I expected him to do that, he would never have had the chance. It's fucked.
Woodsen's 1997 campaign came in November during the annual rivalry game against Ohio State, in front of over 100,000 fans in Ann Arbor. Woodson put on a display of athletic versatility that silenced his critics. He returned a punt 78 yards for a touchdown, intercepted a crucial pass in the red zone, and set up another score with a spectacular reception. His performance was a masterclass in making impact plays when they mattered most. He did not merely play the game, he controlled its rhythm, demonstrating a level of skill that left spectators and commentators in awe. Meanwhile, Peyton Manning continued to put up stellar numbers, leading Tennessee to a Southeastern Conference championship with a dramatic victory over Auburn. Yet the narrative had shifted. The media and the voters, divided into 6 distinct geographic regions to eliminate regional bias, were captivated by Woodson's multi-dimensional brilliance. Some voters argued that the Heisman Trophy should go to the best player in college football, regardless of position, rather than serving as a Lifetime Achievement Award for a quarterback. On December 13, 1997, the finalists gathered at the Downtown Athletic Club in New York City. The tension in the room was palpable. Peyton Manning, the poised and polished favorite, sat alongside the confident Ryan Leaf, the explosive Randy Moss, and the versatile Charles Woodson. When the envelope was opened, it was Charles Woodson's name that was called. He had done the impossible, becoming the first primarily defensive player in the history of the award to claim the bronze statue. The announcement sparked fierce debates across the country, particularly in the South, where Tennessee fans felt Manning had been unjustly denied an honor he had earned through 4 years of excellence. Phone lines at the Downtown Athletic Club were flooded with angry calls. T-shirts appeared in Knoxville, urging fans to keep the trophy, suggesting that the award had lost its credibility. Yet, for Woodson, the victory was a validation of his belief that defense was just as vital to the game as offense. He struck the famous Heisman pose for the cameras, a smile of quiet satisfaction on his face. He had rewritten the history books, proving that impact could not be measured solely by passing yards or rushing touchdowns. Chapter 5. While the dramas of American football unfolded on muddy fields and in snowy stadiums, an entirely different kind of sporting and political revolution was taking place across the Atlantic Ocean. In the city of Milano, Italy, a charismatic and wealthy entrepreneur named Silvio Berlusconi was rewriting the rules of media, sport, and political power. Italy in the late 20th century was a nation in transition. The political system, dominated for over 40 years by the Christian Democrats, was beginning to show signs of deep-seated corruption and stagnation. The 1970s had been marked by social unrest and political violence, leaving the citizenry weary and searching for a new kind of leadership. The system appeared permanent and unchangeable, a source of frustration for a population that desired modernization and economic progress. Berlusconi, who had started his career as a residential developer, possessed a keen understanding of the Italian psyche. He built Milano II, a modern residential complex designed for families, offering an escape from the gray industrial reality of traditional Italian cities. From this foundation, he expanded into the television industry, challenging the state-run monopoly by creating a network of local stations to bypass the legal restrictions that prohibited private national networks. Berlusconi utilized a clever system. He sent video cassettes of his programs to local stations across the country, instructing them to broadcast the content with only a few seconds of variation. This qualified as local programming while effectively creating a national network that brought colorful, light-hearted American entertainment and modern advertising into Italian homes. Berlusconi realized that the true currency of modern society was emotion, and there was no greater source of emotion in Italy than football. In 1986, he purchased Associazione Calcio Milan, a historic club that had fallen on hard times, suffering relegation to Serie B following a match-fixing scandal and teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. It was a move that many of his advisors, including his future general manager Adriano Galliani, cautioned against, fearing the immense financial liabilities. Yet Berlusconi was guided by a vision that went beyond simple business logic. Chapter 6. Berlusconi did not merely want to own a football club. He wanted to create a spectacle that would reflect his own image of modern, dynamic success. He introduced the players to the public with theatrical flair, arriving at the training grounds in helicopters accompanied by the dramatic music of Richard Wagner. He redid the club's headquarters, personally inspected the turf at the training facility, and declared that Milan would become the most dominant team in the world. His most significant decision, however, was the appointment of Arrigo Sacchi as the head coach. Sacchi was an unconventional choice. He had never played professional football and had coached only in the lower divisions, notably at Parma. Critics questioned the decision, asking how a man with no pedigree could lead one of Italy's most famous clubs. Sacchi famously responded that a jockey did not need to have been a horse first. Sacchi introduced a high-pressing, zonal marking system that demanded intense physical conditioning and mental concentration from his players. He rejected the traditional Italian style of catenaccio, which focused on defensive survival and counterattacking, in favor of a proactive, beautiful game. He compressed the space on the field, forcing opponents into mistakes and turning defensive transitions into immediate attacking opportunities. To execute this demanding style, Berlusconi invested heavily, acquiring the brilliant Dutch trio of Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten, and Frank Rijkaard, alongside Italian stalwarts like Carlo Ancelotti, Roberto Donadoni, and Franco Baresi. The results were spectacular. Associazione Calcio Milan transformed from a struggling club into the most dominant force in European football. The climax of this era came in May of 1989 at the European Cup final in Barcelona. Facing Steaua Bucharest, Milan put on a masterclass of attacking football, winning 4-0 before 90,000 adoring fans who had traveled from Italy in a massive car caravan. This sporting triumph was more than just a victory on the pitch. It was a demonstration of Italian modernism, organization, and flair. Berlusconi stood at the center of this triumph, projecting the image of a leader who was condemned to win. He had used the football club to construct a powerful narrative of success, one that he would eventually translate into the political arena when he launched his political party, Forza Italia, in 1990. 4. He spoke to the nation not as a traditional politician, but as the president of a winning team, promising to bring the same prosperity and efficiency to the government that he had brought to Associazione Calcio Milan. Chapter 7. Now, the narrative returns to that freezing night in New England in 2000. 2. The connections between these stories become clear. The characters of Tom Brady and Charles Woodson, shaped by their collegiate struggles and successes, are once again locked in combat under the falling snow of Foxborough. When Woodson hit Brady, causing the ball to fly loose, the Raiders celebrated what appeared to be a game-ending turnover. The stadium was silent, the home fans resigned to defeat. But under the rules of the National Football League, any play occurring with under 2 minutes remaining in the game is subject to automatic review by the replay official. Referee Walt Coleman stepped over to the sideline monitor to examine the replay. He was looking at a specific, highly technical rule known as the tuck rule. According to Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2 of the League Manual, if a quarterback begins a forward passing motion and then attempts to tuck the ball back against his body, any loss of possession before the tuck is completed is ruled an incomplete pass rather than a fumble. For several agonizing minutes, the players stood on the snowy field, their breath freezing in the air, waiting for the decision. In the television broadcast booths, commentators debated the interpretation of the rule. To the untrained eye, it was a clear fumble. Brady had abandoned his attempt to throw the ball and was trying to pull it back when Woodson struck. Yet when Coleman emerged from the review booth, he announced that the ruling on the field was overturned. It was an incomplete pass. New England retained possession of the ball. The decision sent shockwaves through both sidelines. The Raiders felt they had been unjustly deprived of a victory, their momentum shattered by a technicality. Their veteran coach, John Gruden, could only watch in disbelief as the opportunity to advance slipped away. The Patriots, given new life, seized the moment with a quiet intensity. Brady, demonstrating the composure that would define his career, guided the team down the field, setting up Adam Vinatieri for a 45-yard field goal attempt through the driving blizzard. Vinatieri's kick, slicing through the snow and clearing the crossbar, is widely considered one of the most difficult and clutch plays in the history of the sport. In overtime, the Patriots won the coin toss, marched down the field, and Vinatieri secured the victory with another field goal, sending New England to the championship game and initiating a dynasty that would dominate the league for 2 decades. Chapter 8. The consequences of that single decision by Walt Coleman extended far beyond the snowy confines of Foxborough Stadium. Had the play been ruled a fumble, the Raiders would have advanced, and their history, along with the history of their coach and players, would have been written differently. John Gruden might never have left for Tampa Bay, and Charles Woodson might have secured a Super Bowl ring with the Raiders much earlier in his career. For Tom Brady, the stakes were even higher. Had the Patriots lost that game due to his fumble, head coach Bill Belichick might have returned the starting quarterback job to the veteran Drew Bledsoe for the 2002 season. The legendary career of Brady, which eventually produced 7 Super Bowl championships, might have taken an entirely different path. He might have remained a backup, a footnote in the history of the draft, rather than the most successful competitor the sport had ever seen. In Italy, Silvio Berlusconi used the immense popularity and credibility he gained from Associazione Calcio Milan's success to launch his political movement. He translated the language of the soccer field into the language of governance, presenting himself as the ultimate manager who could rescue the nation from political stagnation. He served as prime minister for 3 separate terms, his career forever intertwined with the fortunes of the football club he had transformed. These 3 narratives, though separated by distance and discipline, reveal a shared truth about the nature of human endeavor. They demonstrate that history is not always written by grand, sweeping movements. Sometimes it is determined by the most minute details, a referee's interpretation of an obscure rule in a New England snowstorm, a voter's preference for a versatile defender over a classic quarterback in New York, or an entrepreneur's ability to turn a football club success into a political brand in Milano. In the end, we are all subject to the unexpected turning points that shape our destinies. We make our choices, prepare for our moments, and execute our plans. But we must also accept the presence of chance, the arbitrary nature of rules, and the thin margin that separates winning from losing. The legends we celebrate are often born in those fleeting seconds where one decision, or one bounce of the ball, changes everything forever. The wind that swept across Foxborough Stadium on that January night in the year 2002 carried with it the scent of frozen salt water and impending change. It was a cold that settled deep into the bones of the spectators, a shivering mass of humanity huddled in the outdated concrete bowl that would soon be reduced to rubble. Thick, heavy flakes of snow fell from a dark New England sky, draping the field in a white shroud that grew deeper with every passing minute. For those on the field, the elements were not merely an inconvenience. They were an active participant in a drama that would redefine the history of the National Football League. 2 former collegiate teammates from the University of Michigan, Tom Brady and Charles Woodson, stood on opposite sides of this frozen stage. Only a few years prior, they had shared a locker room in Ann Arbor, breathing the same chilled air of Midwestern winters and learning the meticulous details of a game that now demanded their absolute devotion. Woodson had been the golden child, the Heisman Trophy winner who seemed to move with a grace that was 5 years ahead of anyone else on the field. Brady had been the overlooked competitor, a sixth-round draft selection taken with the 199th pick, a young man who had spent his early career waiting for a chance that many believed would never come. Now, with under 2 minutes remaining in this closely contested playoff game, their paths were destined to collide in a moment of pure, unpredictable theater. The Oakland Raiders held a slim lead of 13-10, and the Patriots were desperately trying to orchestrate a drive to save their season.
It was a
scenario that seemed to invite the extraordinary, yet no one in the stadium, and certainly no one watching at home, could have anticipated the sheer weight of what was about to unfold. The rivalry between the New England Patriots and the Oakland Raiders was already steeped in a rich, sometimes bitter history. Older fans in the crowd remembered the 1976 playoff contest, a game played in this very round of the postseason, where nose tackle Sugar Bear Hamilton was penalized for a highly questionable roughing the passer infraction against Ken Stabler. That single call by referee Ben Drath had transformed a desperate fourth down into a fresh set of downs, leading to a 24-21 victory for the Raiders. For 25 years, that moment had burned in the memories of the New England faithful, a historical grievance that refused to die. The owner of the Patriots, Robert Kraft, had specifically requested this home field advantage when the league office had asked the franchise owners for their scheduling preferences. Kraft had insisted on playing the night game in the dark, frigid confines of Foxborough, hoping for a touch of winter weather to confound their West Coast opponents. The snow arrived precisely as requested, turning the stadium into a wonderland that felt both romantic and hostile. As the game entered its final minutes, the physical toll of the weather was evident. The footing was treacherous, the ball was slick, and every movement required a deliberate, concentrated effort. The Raiders had maintained control for much of the evening, led by their defense and the occasional offensive
spark.
Yet, they had failed to put the game entirely out of reach, leaving the door slightly open for a young quarterback who was rapidly learning how to navigate the high-pressure environment of professional football. Tom Brady, standing in the huddle with his hands warmed by a small blue pouch around his waist, looked out at the defense. He was a product of California, yet his years at Michigan had accustomed him to the biting cold.
To his eyes, the
snow had a slowing effect on the defense. The pass rushers could not get their feet firmly planted, and the defensive backs were hesitant to make sudden movements for fear of slipping. In the mind of the young passer, the chaotic conditions actually offered a strange, quiet clarity. The Patriots had managed to narrow the gap with a rushing touchdown from Brady himself, an awkward, diving run that he would later describe as looking like a baby deer finding its footing on ice. It was a rare moment of rushing success. For a player who preferred to operate from the pocket, but the sheer desperation of the postseason had driven him forward. The touchdown had injected new life into the crowd, and now, with the clock ticking down, the Patriots had the ball back at the Oakland 47-yard line. The play call was a 3-by-1 alignment designed to isolate a single receiver on the backside of the formation. Charles Woodson, playing cornerback for the Raiders, had been observing the Patriots sideline. Standing near the New England bench, he had overheard the offensive coordinators discussing the play. Woodson knew the single receiver would be the primary target, and he prepared himself to make a game-ending play. As Brady took the snap, Woodson came on a corner blitz, his movements disguised by the falling snow. Brady looked to his left, pump faked, and began to bring the ball back toward his body, realizing his receiver was covered. In that fraction of a second, Woodson arrived from his blind side, striking the young quarterback and forcing the ball to the turf. The Raiders erupted in celebration, believing they had secured a sack, a fumble recovery, and a trip to the American Football Conference Championship game. To the naked eye, it appeared to be a clear turnover. The stadium fell into a stunned silence, save for the pocket of Raiders fans who were already envisioning a flight to Pittsburgh. Brady walked off the field with his head bowed, the weight of defeat resting heavily on his shoulders.
He had not yet
heard of the obscure rule that was about to rescue his season and alter the trajectory of his entire career. Referee Walt Coleman was summoned to the replay monitor. Under the hood, in the middle of a swirling blizzard, he began to examine the footage. The question was not about intent or common sense, but rather about the precise legalistic wording of Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2 of the League Rulebook. The rule dictated that any intentional forward movement of the arm started a forward pass, and even if the player lost possession while attempting to tuck the ball back toward his body, it must be ruled an incomplete pass. For several minutes, the entire sports world stood still. The commentators debated, the players waited in the freezing cold, and the coaches paced the
sidelines.
When Coleman finally emerged from the booth and announced that the play was ruled an incomplete pass, a wave of disbelief swept through the Raiders
sideline.
It was a decision that felt, to those in silver and black, like a modern repetition of the Sugar Bear Hamilton call from 25 years earlier. The Patriots, gifted with new life, capitalized on the opportunity. Brady completed a series of short passes, setting up kicker Adam Vinatieri for a 45-yard field goal attempt in conditions that seemed to defy the laws of physics. With several inches of snow covering the turf, Vinatieri launched a low, driving kick that cleared the crossbar, sending the game into overtime and cementing his place in football lore. In the extra period, the Patriots marched down the field with a precision that seemed impossible given the weather. Another field goal by Vinatieri sealed the victory, launching New England into a championship run that would yield their first Super Bowl title and establish a dynasty that would dominate the league for nearly 2 decades. Years later, Brady and Woodson would sit together, looking at the footage of that fateful night. The passage of time had softened the bitterness, but the fundamental disagreement remained. Woodson would argue, with a quiet smile, that the ball was clearly coming back to Brady's body, making it a fumble in any logical interpretation of the game. Brady, with the humility of a man who had won 7 championships, would admit that his intent was not to throw, but would defend the ruling based on the literal text of a rule that was eventually eliminated from the books in the year 2013. The legacy of the Tuck rule remains a testament to the fragile nature of success. In professional sports, a single millisecond, a gust of wind, or a referee's interpretation of an obscure paragraph can define the difference between a forgotten backup and a legendary champion. Had the ball been ruled a fumble, Brady may well have returned to the bench in 2002, allowing Drew Bledsoe to reclaim his starting role, while the Raiders may have gone on to lift the Lombardi Trophy. Instead, the butterfly effect of that snowy night in Foxborough created a legacy that will be discussed as long as the game of football is played. To understand the rise of Tom Brady and Charles Woodson, one must look back to the autumn of the year 1997, a season that featured one of the most celebrated and fiercely debated campaigns for the Heisman Trophy, the race for college football's most prestigious individual award had become a national obsession, capturing the imaginations of fans from the coastal valleys of Washington to the humid fields of Tennessee. The frontrunner for much of the year was Peyton Manning, the senior quarterback for the University of Tennessee. Manning was the epitome of the collegiate ideal, a meticulous scholar of the game who possessed an extraordinary passing arm, a lightning-quick release, and an intellectual grasp of offensive strategy that rivaled many professional coaches. His decision to return to Knoxville for his senior season, rather than enter the draft where he was projected to be the #1 overall selection by the New York Jets, had stunned the sports world. Manning's father, Archie Manning, had been a legendary quarterback at the University of Mississippi, a brilliant athlete whose professional career had been spent fighting for survival behind porous offensive lines on struggling franchises. The elder Manning had never won a championship, and his experiences had instilled in his son a deep appreciation for the journey of college football. Peyton returned to Tennessee to finish what he had started, determined to win a Southeastern Conference title and a national championship. The media coverage surrounding Manning was immense. He was a beloved figure, appearing on national television programs, hugging babies, and representing the sport with a polished professionalism. Yet, his legacy was shadowed by a single persistent challenge: his inability to defeat the rival Florida Gators. To his critics, Manning was like a magnificent golfer who had never won a major championship, a player whose regular season accomplishments were undeniable but who struggled to win the ultimate contest. As the season progressed, other candidates began to emerge from across the country. In the Pacific Northwest, Ryan Leaf was orchestrating a spectacular Campaign for Washington State University. Leaf was a physical specimen, standing 6 feet and 6 inches tall and weighing 235 pounds. He possessed an exceptionally strong arm and a confident, almost abrasive swagger that polarized fans and scouts alike. He played with a fiery passion, leading the Cougars to their first Rose Bowl appearance in 7 decades and forcing his way into the Heisman conversation. In West Virginia, a wide receiver named Randy Moss was redefining the limits of the position for Marshall University. Moss was an athlete of rare, breathtaking ability, possessing a combination of size and speed that made him virtually uncoverable. His path to stardom had been marked by personal setbacks and brushes with the law that had cost him opportunities at Notre Dame and Florida State University. Yet, at Marshall, under the watchful eye of coaches who recognized his unique talent, Moss found redemption on the field, catching 25 touchdown passes and generating a level of excitement that transcended his school's modest athletic profile. Meanwhile, in Ann Arbor, Charles Woodson was quietly putting together a campaign that would challenge the historical conventions of the Heisman Trophy. Since its inception in the year 1935, the award had been almost exclusively reserved for offensive players, primarily running backs and quarterbacks. No primarily defensive player had ever won the trophy. A historical reality that many felt was an injustice to one half of the players on the field. Woodson, a junior cornerback, was a player of such extraordinary versatility that he could not be ignored. He was a dominant cover corner who could shut down an opponent's best receiver, a dangerous weapon on offense who caught touchdown passes, and a spectacular punt returner who could change the course of a game in a single play. His head coach, Lloyd Carr, recognized that Woodson was a rare talent who demanded to be on the field as much as possible. The turning point of the race occurred in late November during the annual rivalry game between Michigan and Ohio State, with the national spotlight firmly fixed on Ann Arbor. Woodson delivered a performance that became the defining statement of the season. He intercepted a pass in the end zone to thwart an Ohio State drive, caught a crucial 37-yard pass to set up a Michigan touchdown, and returned a punt 78 yards for a score, memorably striking the Heisman pose as his teammates mobbed him on the field. The performance galvanized the electorate, while Manning continued to put up impressive statistics and led Tennessee to an SEC championship. The narrative had shifted. Voters began to question whether the Heisman should simply go to the quarterback with the best numbers, or whether it should honor the most dominant and versatile player in the country, regardless of position. When the finalists gathered at the Downtown Athletic Club in New York on December 13th, the tension in the room was palpable. The 4 young men, dressed in their finest suits, sat together as the presenters read their accomplishments. For Manning, it was a moment that felt like the culmination of a 4-year journey. For Woodson, it was an opportunity to make history. When the envelope was opened and Charles Woodson was announced as the winner, a shockwave went through the college football community. In Knoxville, fans were outraged, believing that Manning had been denied an award he had earned through years of excellence and dedication. Yet, for many others, Woodson's victory was a triumph of athletic versatility, a recognition that a defensive player could indeed be the most outstanding player in the nation. The 1997 Heisman class would go down as one of the greatest in history, producing 3 future Hall of Famers in Manning, Woodson, and Moss. Their professional careers would validate the excitement of that autumn, as each of them went on to redefine their respective positions in the National Football League. While the drama of American football was unfolding on frozen fields and collegiate stadiums, a different kind of sporting and political revolution was taking place in Italy. In the mid-1980s, the country was emerging from a dark decade marked by political violence, economic instability, and systemic corruption. The traditional political class, dominated by the Christian Democrats, had held power for over 40 years, creating a stagnant system that many citizens viewed with deep cynicism. In the midst of this malaise, a wealthy and ambitious media tycoon named Silvio Berlusconi saw an opportunity to transform the cultural and political landscape of his nation. Berlusconi had built his fortune in real estate, constructing modern residential complexes designed for young, aspiring families. He then turned his attention to television, exploiting loopholes in Italian law to build a private national broadcasting network that challenged the state-owned media monopoly. Berlusconi understood that the modern Italian citizen desired entertainment, color, and escape. He filled his channels with American television series, colorful game shows, and vibrant advertising, creating a world of luxury and pleasure that contrasted sharply with the gray reality of the state channels. He recognized that to truly capture the hearts of the public, he needed to align himself with the country's greatest passion, association football. In 1986, Berlusconi purchased Association Football Club Milan, a historic franchise that had fallen on hard times. The club had been relegated to the second division following a match-fixing scandal and was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. It was an institution in desperate need of a savior, and Berlusconi was more than willing to play the part. His arrival was marked by a theatricality that was entirely new to Italian sport. He introduced his team to the media by having them descend from helicopters to the dramatic sounds of Richard Wagner's music, presenting them as modern gladiators who were destined to conquer the world. Berlusconi did not merely want to win, he wanted to win with style, aesthetics, and absolute dominance. To achieve this vision, he made a series of bold, unconventional decisions. He hired Arrigo Sacchi, a coach who had never played professional football and had spent his career managing obscure teams in the lower divisions. Many in the Italian media mocked the appointment, questioning how a former shoe salesman could manage a roster of highly paid stars. Sacchi, however, possessed a revolutionary mind. He rejected the traditional Italian style of play, known as catenaccio, which emphasized a cautious defensive approach focused on waiting for the opponent to make a mistake. Instead, Sachai introduced a system based on collective pressing, high tempo, and continuous attacking. He demanded that his players move as a single, cohesive unit, compressing the space on the pitch and suffocating their opponents. Berlusconi provided Sachai with the financial resources to assemble an extraordinary squad. He signed the brilliant Dutch trio of Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten, and Frank Rijkaard, combining their physical power and technical skill with the defensive discipline of Italian legends like Franco Baresi and Carlo Ancelotti. The results were spectacular. Milan transformed into a dominant force, playing a brand of football that was compared to a scientific orchestra. In 1989, they reached the final of the European Cup in Barcelona, where they faced Steaua Bucharest. Over 80,000 Milan fans traveled to Spain, creating a sea of red and black that filled the stadium. Milan dismantled the Romanian champions with a stunning 4-0 victory, with 2 goals each from Gullit and Van Basten. It was a performance of such artistic and athletic dominance that it was hailed as a masterpiece of modern football. Berlusconi stood in the stands, bathed in the adulation of the crowd, realizing that he had constructed a powerful vehicle for his personal brand. The success of the football club was inextricably linked to Berlusconi's political ambitions. He used the language of the sport to launch his political movement in the early 90s, naming his party Forza Italia, a phrase commonly shouted by fans supporting the national team. He presented himself as the ultimate manager, a man who could apply the same principles of efficiency, modern marketing, and winning strategy that had made Milan the greatest team in the world to the governing of the Italian state. For over 2 decades, Berlusconi dominated Italian politics, serving as prime minister for 3 separate terms. His political narrative was built entirely on the foundation of his sporting success. He understood that in a country divided by regional loyalties and political ideologies, the shared joy of victory on the football pitch was a powerful, unifying force that could be translated into votes and power. Yet, the mandate of triumph carried its own dangers. Berlusconi's insistence on absolute dominance and his refusal to show weakness created a dangerous detachment from reality, both in sport and in governance. As the years progressed, the scandals that surrounded his personal and public life began to erode his authority, exposing the fragile nature of a power built on entertainment and spectacle. The stories of a snowy night in New England, a collegiate awards ceremony in New York, and a political revolution in Milan are all bound by a common thread. They are narratives about the pursuit of victory, the influence of personality, and the unpredictable forces that shape human destiny. Whether through an obscure rule in a football game, a historic vote by a panel of journalists, or the tactical brilliance of a visionary coach, these moments remind us that history is often written in the narrowest of margins, where a single decision can echo across decades, transforming ordinary men into legends and tycoons into leaders of nations. The architecture of fate and the rules of the game. Introduction. The human experience is often defined not by the grand, sweeping gestures of historical inevitability, but by the smallest, most quiet moments of alignment. We construct systems, write rules, and draw lines upon the earth in an attempt to impose order on a chaotic universe. Yet occasionally the rules we create to govern our games and our societies become the very instruments of a profound and unpredictable destiny. This is the story of how minor movements, overlooked clauses, and the sudden collision of human ambition can alter the course of lives, cultures, and nations. We look at three distinct arenas where the boundaries of sport, power, and human psychology intersected. In the freezing, snow-swept landscape of New England, a single referee decision transformed a young, unheralded quarterback into an icon of a sporting dynasty, while leaving his collegiate teammate to ponder what might have been. In the warm, autumn-drenched stadiums of American college football, a historic award race challenged decades of tradition, pitting regional passions and different philosophies of excellence against one another. And across the Atlantic, in the sunlit plazas and smoke-filled offices of Italy, a media tycoon recognized that the collective passion of soccer could be harnessed to reconstruct the political and cultural identity of an entire nation. These stories, though separated by geography and discipline, share a common thread. They are studies in the butterfly effect, the phenomenon where a tiny variation in the initial conditions of a system can lead to vast, cascading changes. Through these narratives, we observe the fragile nature of success, the quiet dignity of those who seek justice, and the humble truth that while we may write the rules, we are ultimately subject to the unpredictable winds of fate. Chapter 1: The Snows of Foxborough. The air in Foxborough, Massachusetts, on the evening of January 19, 2002, carried the weight of a changing season. It was cold, the kind of deep, biting cold that settles into the bones of athletes and spectators alike. And the snow was falling in a steady, relentless curtain. For decades, the old Foxborough Stadium had stood as a concrete monument to the quiet struggles of a franchise that had often lived in the shadow of more illustrious rivals. This was to be the final game ever played in that stadium before the wrecking balls arrived, and the elements seemed determined to give the old venue a romantic, almost mythical farewell. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, had specifically requested this setting when the National Football League had inquired about scheduling preferences for the playoff weekend. Kraft had chosen the dark, frigid evening over an afternoon slot. He wanted the distinct home field advantage that only a New England winter could provide, perhaps remembering a time 20 years prior when a December snowstorm had held his team scoreless until an enterprising coach encouraged a stadium worker on a work release program from the Massachusetts State Penitentiary to clear a spot on the field with a snowblower for a game-winning kick. The opponents on this snowy night were the Oakland Raiders, a franchise that carried the mystique of a rebellious, hard-hitting past. The history between these two teams was long and often scarred by dramatic confrontations. There was the 1986 playoff game in Los Angeles, won by the Patriots, which had degenerated into a post-game altercation between players and executives. There was the tragic preseason game in 1978, when wide receiver Darryl Stingley was left paralyzed after a fierce collision. And, perhaps most famously, there was the playoff game in 1976, when a controversial roughing the passer penalty called by referee Ben Drath against nose tackle Sugar Bear Hamilton allowed the Raiders to secure a victory and eventually win the Super Bowl. Now, 25 years after that questionable whistle, the two franchises met again under the stadium lights. Among the many storylines of the night was a reunion between two former teammates from the University of Michigan.
Charles
Woodson, the Heisman Trophy-winning cornerback of the Raiders, was a player of immense natural grace and anticipation. He had always seemed to exist several steps ahead of his contemporaries, possessing an intuitive understanding of the game that made his success appear effortless. Tom Brady, the young quarterback of the Patriots, had followed a much different
path.
While Woodson was the epitome of collegiate success, Brady had spent his final years at Michigan fighting for playing time, eventually being selected with the 199 pick in the professional draft. He had started the 2001 season as a backup to the established superstar Drew
Bledsoe.
But when Bledsoe suffered a serious injury early in the year, Brady was thrust into the starting role. He was young, accurate, and showing a remarkable capacity to learn from his mistakes, leading his team to an unexpected playoff
run.
As the game progressed through the driving snow, the conditions became increasingly difficult for offensive football. The ground was slippery, making it hard for defenders to react quickly and for receivers to find their footing. Yet, for a quarterback who had trained in the cold winters of Michigan, there was a strange, slow-motion clarity to the game. When the snow covers the field, the speed of the pass rush is diminished, and the defensive coverages become simpler because defenders cannot easily disguise their movements without risking a slip. With the Raiders leading 13-10 and just over 2 minutes remaining in the game, the Patriots found themselves in a desperate situation. They needed to move the ball down the field to get within field goal range, but the Oakland defense, led by Woodson, was unyielding. Brady dropped back to pass, searching the white field for an open receiver. Woodson, recognizing the play from his study of his former teammate, came on a safety blitz from edge. He knew Brady's tendencies, knew that the young quarterback would look to protect the ball if he felt pressure.
Woodson closed
the distance rapidly, his feet finding traction in the snow, and launched himself at Brady. He did not merely try to tackle him. He went for the ball, striking Brady's arm just as the quarterback was attempting to pull the ball
back toward his body.
The ball flew loose, tumbling into the snow. To every eye in the stadium and on the field, It appeared to be a classic sack and fumble. The Raiders players celebrated, jumping on the loose ball, believing they had secured the victory. And a trip to the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh. Brady walked slowly toward the sideline, his shoulders slumped in what looked like the posture of
defeat.
But the game of football, like society itself, is governed by a complex and often obscure code of laws. Under the 2-minute warning, the play was subject to automatic review by the instant replay system. Referee Walt Coleman walked to the small monitor on the sideline, shielding his eyes from the falling snow, to examine the footage. The rule in question was Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2 of the National Football League Rulebook. It stated that when an offensive player is holding the ball to pass it forward, any intentional forward movement of his arm starts a forward pass. Crucially, the rule added that even if the player loses possession of the ball while attempting to tuck it back toward his body, if the ball comes loose before the tuck is completed against his side, the play must be ruled an incomplete pass. As Coleman watched the slow-motion replay, the technicality of the rule began to conflict with the common-sense interpretation of the game. Brady had started his throwing motion, hesitated, and was in the process of bringing the ball back to his body when Woodson made contact. By the literal translation of the written law, because the ball had not been securely tucked against his torso before it was knocked free, it was not a fumble. It was an incomplete pass. The announcement over the stadium public address system sent a shockwave through both sidelines. The ruling on the field was overturned. The Patriots retained possession of the ball. Though the decision gave New England new life, they still had to execute under extraordinary pressure. The Raiders, feeling a profound sense of injustice, had to compose themselves and defend their lead. Brady, showing the calm resolve that would define his career, moved his team down the field, setting up a 45-yard field goal attempt for kicker Adam Vinatieri. To attempt a 45-yard field goal in a blizzard, with several inches of snow covering the turf, was an almost impossible task. The snap was true, the hold was clean, and Vinatieri struck the ball, watching it disappear into the white night before sailing through the uprights to tie the game. It was a moment of pure athletic beauty, a testament to concentration and skill over the elements. In overtime, the Patriots won the coin toss under the sudden death rules of the
era.
They marched down the field, utilizing short, precise passes, and Vinatieri converted a shorter kick to win the game. The Patriots went on to defeat Pittsburgh in the championship game and then upset the heavily favored St. Louis Rams in the Super Bowl, beginning one of the greatest dynasties in the history of professional sports. The tuck rule play became a permanent part of sports folklore, a modern butterfly effect. Had the play been ruled a fumble, the Raiders would have advanced, perhaps winning the championship themselves, and Brady might have returned to the bench as a backup to Bledsoe in the following season. Instead, a single, highly technical rule applied precisely in a moment of extreme pressure redirected the lives of dozens of men and the history of a sport. Chapter 2: The Class of 1997. To fully understand the collision between Tom Brady and Charles Woodson on that snowy night in Massachusetts, one must travel back 5 years to the autumn of 1997. It was a season of collegiate football that captured the imagination of the American public, a year defined by regional pride, exceptional individual talents, and a historic race for the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy, awarded annually since 1935 by the Downtown Athletic Club in New York, is the most coveted individual honor in amateur
sports.
For decades, an unwritten consensus had established that the trophy belonged almost exclusively to offensive players, specifically running backs and quarterbacks. The defensive players, those who performed the quiet, grinding work of stopping the opposition, were rarely considered for the ultimate prize. But the class of 1997 challenged every convention.
The
undisputed frontrunner as the season began was Peyton Manning, the senior, a quarterback of the University of Tennessee. Manning was the son of Archie Manning, a beloved quarterback of the 1970s who had spent his career struggling with a struggling professional franchise in New Orleans. Peyton had chosen to forego the millions of the professional draft, turning down the opportunity to be the number 1 pick by the New York Jets, simply to return to Knoxville for his senior season. Manning was the consummate student of the game, a player of immense preparation and intellectual rigor. He carried himself with a quiet dignity, embracing the role of the model student-athlete and accepting the immense expectations placed upon his shoulders. To the media and many fans, the Heisman was his to lose, a fitting reward for a young man who had shown rare loyalty to his university and his sport. Yet, as the autumn weeks unfolded, other remarkable talents emerged to challenge the established narrative. At Marshall University, a small school in West Virginia, a wide receiver named Randy Moss was performing feats that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Moss was a player of unparalleled speed and leaping ability, a natural athlete who could turn any short pass into a long touchdown. Despite early setbacks in his personal life that had diverted him from larger programs, Moss had found a home at Marshall, focusing his energy on the field and capturing the attention of the national media with his spectacular play. In the Pacific Northwest, Ryan Leaf, the confident and physically imposing quarterback of Washington State University, was leading his team on an improbable march toward the Rose Bowl. Leaf possessed a powerful arm and a swaggering self-assurance that polarized observers. He was candid, emotional, and highly effective, showing a capacity to win difficult games on the road and positioning himself as a viable alternative to Manning in the eyes of professional scouts. But the most intriguing challenger of all was Charles Woodson of the University of Michigan. Woodson was a junior cornerback who possessed such extraordinary athletic versatility that his coaches began using him in all 3 phases of the
game.
He was not only the premier cover cornerback in college football, capable of shutting down an opponent's best receiver, but he also played as a wide receiver on offense and returned punts on special teams. The debate over who should win the Heisman Trophy became a reflection of the deep regional divisions within college football. In the South, Manning was revered as a legendary figure, a player who represented the best traditions of the region. In the Midwest, the campaign for Woodson gathered momentum, driven by those who argued that the Heisman should go to the best overall football player, regardless of position. The turning point of the race came in late November during the annual rivalry game between Michigan and Ohio State, with a trip to the Rose Bowl and a potential national championship on the line. Woodson delivered a performance for the ages. He intercepted a crucial pass in the end zone to halt an Ohio State drive, caught a long pass on offense to set up a Michigan score, and returned a punt 78 yards for a touchdown, famously striking the Heisman pose as he ran along the sideline. On the same afternoon, Manning and the Tennessee Volunteers were playing a high-scoring game against Kentucky. While Manning threw for over 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, the performance was viewed by some as less dramatic than Woodson's multi-dimensional display on a national stage. The media narrative began to shift rapidly, fueled by a growing sense that history was within reach. The Heisman voting system, designed to minimize regional bias by dividing the country into 6 distinct voting districts, became a battlefield of opinions. Some voters in the East and Midwest argued that Woodson's impact on every play made him the superior candidate, while others in the South maintained that Manning's career achievements and leadership of his team to an SEC championship made him the rightful winner. On the night of December 13, 1997, the 4 finalists gathered in the Grand Ballroom of the Downtown Athletic Club in New York. The tension in the room was palpable, reflecting months of intense public debate. When the envelope was opened, the announcement made history. Charles Woodson was awarded the 63rd Heisman Trophy, becoming the first primarily defensive player ever to win the honor. The reaction was immediate and polarized. In Tennessee, there was a sense of profound disappointment and anger, with many fans feeling that Manning had been unjustly denied a Lifetime Achievement Award. In Michigan, there was jubilation, a celebration of a player who had redefined what was possible on a football
field.
The class of 1997 would go on to prove itself as one of the most remarkable collections of talent in the history of the sport. Manning was selected first in the professional draft by the Indianapolis Colts, embarkation on a career that would yield multiple championships and records. Leaf was selected second, embarking on a path that would serve as a cautionary tale of the pressures of professional sports. Woodson was selected fourth by Oakland, and Moss was taken later by Minnesota, both destined for legendary careers. The race of 1997 showed that success is not a linear path. The disappointment of one moment can serve as the fuel for future achievements, and the rules of tradition are always subject to the disruptive power of exceptional
talent.
Chapter 3: The Milanese Symphony. While the fields of American football were being shaped by individual acts of destiny, a parallel drama of sport, media, and political ambition was unfolding. In Europe, to understand the full scope of how athletic success can be used to construct a narrative of power, one must look to Italy in the late 20th century, and specifically to the city of Milan. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Italy was a nation searching for its identity. It was a country marked by political instability, economic stagnation, and the dark shadow of domestic terrorism. The political system was dominated by a single central party that had held power for over 40 years, leading to a sense of permanent occupation and widespread corruption. To many Italians, the future appeared gray and predictable, much like the industrial skyline of Milan. But beneath the surface of this quiet despair, a cultural and economic revolution was beginning. The city of Milan was transforming itself from a traditional industrial town into the fashion and design capital of the Western world. It was an era of new entrepreneurs, men who rejected the cautious, old-school capitalism of the past in favor of a dynamic, media-driven future. Foremost among these visionaries was Silvio Berlusconi. Born into a middle-class Milanese family, Berlusconi possessed an extraordinary ambition and an intuitive understanding of the desires of the modern consumer. He began his career as a residential real estate developer, building large, self-contained mini-cities designed for young families who sought an escape from the crowded urban centers. But Berlusconi's true genius lay in his recognition of the power of television. At a time when the Italian state maintained a monopoly on national broadcasting, Berlusconi exploited a legal loophole that allowed local private stations to operate by creating a network of local stations and broadcasting pre-recorded programs on videotape with only minor time delays. He effectively created Italy's first private national television network. Berlusconi did not merely change how television was delivered, he changed what was broadcast. He replaced the educational and often solemn programming of the state channels with a colorful, American-style schedule of game shows, soap operas, and light entertainment. It was a television of pleasure and distraction, designed to appeal to the optimistic spirit of a growing middle class. But Berlusconi understood that to truly capture the heart of the Italian public, he needed to align himself with the nation's greatest collective passion, soccer. In 1986, the historic club Associazione Calcio Milan was on the verge of bankruptcy, tarnished by a recent match-fixing scandal that had resulted in its temporary relegation to the second division. Berlusconi purchased the club, recognizing its potential as a massive vehicle for his personal brand. He did not merely want to save Milan, he wanted to transform it into the greatest club in the world. His arrival was marked by a theatricality that Italian sports had never seen. He had the team arrive at the training ground in helicopters, accompanied by the dramatic strains of classical music, presenting them not merely as athletes, but as heroes of a new era. To implement his vision on the pitch, Berlusconi made a highly controversial
choice.
He hired Arrigo Sacchi as the team's head coach. Sacchi was an unheralded figure who had never played professional soccer and had spent his career coaching in the lower divisions. To many traditionalists, his appointment
was a mistake.
But Sacchi possessed a revolutionary philosophy of the game. He rejected the traditional Italian style of play, which was defensive and reliant on individual defensive errors. Instead, Sacchi introduced a collective, high-pressing system that demanded absolute physical conditioning and spatial awareness from his players. He taught his team to defend as a single unit, compressing the space on the field and forcing the opposition into mistakes. To complement Sacchi's tactical system, Berlusconi used his immense wealth to acquire some of the finest talents in Europe. He brought in the Dutch trio of Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten, and Frank Rijkaard, players who combined immense physical power with technical elegance. Gullit, with his flowing hair and charismatic presence, became a symbol of this new, fashionable Milan, while Van Basten provided a clinical and beautiful finishing ability. The results were spectacular. In 1988, Milan won its first league championship under Berlusconi, defeating the formidable Napoli team led by Diego Maradona. The victory was celebrated not just as a sporting achievement, but as a triumph of a new, modern way of working. The peak of this Milanese symphony came in the spring of 1989. After surviving a difficult and foggy night in Belgrade in an earlier round, Milan advanced to the European Cup final in Barcelona against Steaua Bucharest. Over 90,000 Italian fans traveled across Europe, creating a sea of red and black flags in the stadium. Milan delivered a flawless performance of Sacchi's pressing system, destroying the Romanian champions 4-0, with 2 goals each from Gullit and Van
Basten.
It was a victory that captured the imagination of Europe, occurring just months before the historic fall of the Berlin Wall. Berlusconi had succeeded in building the image of himself as a winner, a man of magic who could transform any struggling enterprise into a global champion.
He
had used his television networks to broadcast this message of success into millions of homes, creating a powerful connection between his personal identity and the pride of the Italian people. In 1994, as the traditional political system of Italy collapsed, under the weight of massive corruption investigations, Berlusconi made his move into politics. He launched a new political party, naming it after the very chant that fans used to support the national football team, Forza Italia. He ran his political campaign with the same media sophistication and focus on optimism that had characterized his television networks and his football club. He won the election, becoming Prime Minister of Italy and demonstrating how the passion of sport could be translated into ultimate political power. Chapter for the human element and the myth of destiny. As we look back at these 3 narratives of fate, sport, and ambition, we are reminded of the profound human element that lies behind the grand spectacles of
history.
We live in a world that often demands absolute certainty, where winners are celebrated as geniuses and losers are dismissed as failures. But the reality of human endeavor is far more complex and far more interesting. In the case of the tuck rule, we see how the trajectory of several lives was altered by a few milliseconds of a play in the snow. Had Walt Coleman ruled differently, Tom Brady might have been remembered as a competent backup who had a brief run of success, and Charles Woodson might have led his team to a championship. Yet, both men went on to achieve legendary status, demonstrating that true character is not defined by a single ruling, but by how one responds to the opportunities and setbacks that fate presents. The Heisman race of 1997 reminds us of the power of narratives. In our culture, Peyton Manning, despite the disappointment of that night in New York, went on to build a legacy of success that few could ever match.
Charles
Woodson, by winning the award as a defensive player, challenged a long-standing tradition, proving that excellence can manifest in ways that defy established rules. And in the story of Silvio Berlusconi, we see a powerful demonstration of how sport can be used to shape the identity of a nation. Berlusconi recognized that soccer was not merely a game, but a mirror of society, a way to communicate a message of optimism and success to millions of people. Yet the very success that propelled him to power also demonstrated the dangers of becoming detached from reality, of believing that one is truly condemned to win. Ultimately, these stories teach us that while we must play by the rules we construct, we must also recognize the limits of our control. The snow will fall. The bounce of the ball will be unpredictable, and the judgments of others will often be outside our influence. What remains is our capacity to face these moments with dignity, to respect our opponents, and to remember that the true value of any game lies not in the final score, but in the humanity we reveal along the way. The trajectories of human lives, and indeed the history of modern culture, often hinge upon microscopic moments. A single step on a frozen field, a decision to remain in school for one more autumn, or the purchase of a struggling sports franchise can act as catalysts for tectonic shifts. These events demonstrate the butterfly effect in its purest form, where a localized occurrence ripples outward to redefine careers, politics, and the collective memory of millions. This is the chronicle of those moments, exploring how the realms of athletic competition and political power intersected at the end of the 20th century. The first movement of this chronicle begins on a frigid night in New England, where a controversial rule and a snowy collision altered the course of the National Football League. The second movement turns back to the autumn of 1997, when a singular race for the Heisman Trophy challenged decades of tradition and highlighted the divergent paths of legendary competitors. The third and final movement crosses the Atlantic to Italy, where a Wealthy media tycoon used the beautiful game of soccer to rewrite the rules of